There was a time when nearly every country had its own favorite fruit. People didn't choose fruit trees because they looked perfect on grocery store shelves. They chose them because they were dependable. They survived harsh winters, dry summers, poor soil, and years when the weather simply refused to cooperate. Many of these fruits practically looked after themselves, rewarding families with harvest generation after generation. Then something changed. As commercial farming expanded, growers began favoring fruits that ripened all at once, traveled well over long distances, and looked nearly identical on supermarket displays. Many older varieties didn't fit that system. Some bruised too easily. Others ripened over several weeks instead of all at once. A few were simply too unusual for large-scale farming. Slowly, they disappeared from orchards, not because they were poor fruits, but because they weren't practical for commercial production. The wonderful part is that many of these forgotten treasures are still available today. And for home gardeners, they may actually be better choices than many modern varieties. They're tough, they're productive, and once established, many require surprisingly little attention. Today, we're uncovering 9 remarkable fruits that almost faded into history but continue thriving with very little help. Some may already grow wild near you without you even realizing it. Others could become the easiest fruit plants you've ever grown. And the final fruit has quietly earned a reputation as one of nature's greatest gifts for gardeners who prefer working smarter, not harder. Let's begin with a tree that produces one of summer's sweetest rewards. Number 9. Mulberry, the tree that gives more than it takes. If you've ever tasted a sun-warmed mulberry straight from the tree, you understand why so many older gardeners speak about them with such affection. The berries begin pale green, gradually changing to shades of red, before deepening into glossy purple-black as they fully ripen. At first glance, they resemble oversized blackberries, but their flavor is wonderfully unique, rich, sweet, and slightly honey-like when perfectly ripe. Years ago, mulberry trees were common around farms and homesteads. Families appreciated them because they grew quickly, produced generous harvests, and asked for very little in return. Today, they're far less common, partly because the soft fruit doesn't stay fresh for long after picking. That makes it difficult to transport and sell commercially, even though it's delicious straight from the tree. For home gardeners, however, that's hardly a disadvantage. You'll simply enjoy fruit that's fresher than anything found in most supermarkets. Mulberries grow happily in many different climates, handling both chilly winters and hot summers depending on the variety you choose. Once their roots become established, they cope remarkably well with dry weather and don't need constant attention. Choose a sunny location where excess rainwater can drain away easily, and give the tree enough space to spread naturally over time. One thing to remember is that ripe berries often fall on their own. Many experienced gardeners place a clean sheet beneath the branches during harvest season, making collection quick and easy. Sometimes the simplest ideas make gardening far more enjoyable. Number 8. Serviceberry, the fruit birds know best. Here's an interesting question. Who usually discovers the sweetest fruit first? Very often, it's the birds. Serviceberry trees produce clouds of delicate white blossoms in early spring, before transforming into clusters of small berries that ripen from rosy pink to deep blue purple. They're among the earliest fruits of the season, which explains why birds eagerly watch them as harvest time approaches. If you wait too long, your feathered visitors may gather most of the crop before you do. The berries themselves are surprisingly sweet, with gentle hints of blueberry and almond. Many people enjoy eating them fresh, while others bake them into pies, muffins, or homemade preserves. Serviceberries were once widely appreciated across North America, especially by indigenous communities and early settlers. As larger commercial orchards became more common, they slowly faded from everyday cultivation, not because they lacked flavor, but because the delicate fruit has a short shelf life. Fortunately, the tree itself remains wonderfully easy to grow. It adapts well to different soil types, enjoys sunshine, but also tolerates some afternoon shade, and generally requires little maintenance once established. A helpful tip is to harvest the berries as soon as they turn deep blue-purple. At that stage, they're sweetest, juiciest, and less likely to disappear into a hungry robin's breakfast. Nature often rewards those who arrive just a little earlier. Number 7. Persimmon, autumn's hidden treasure. Some fruits demand your attention. Persimmons earn it quietly. As autumn settles in and many trees begin shedding their leaves, brilliant orange fruits remain hanging from nearly bare branches like glowing lanterns against the sky. It's one of the most beautiful sights in any orchard. Yet many people have never tasted a properly ripened persimmon. That's partly because some varieties are extremely tart if picked too early. Patience makes all the difference. When fully ripe, the fruit becomes wonderfully soft, with a rich sweetness, often compared to honey, apricots, and dates. Persimmon trees are also remarkably adaptable. Many varieties tolerate cold winters, while others thrive in warmer regions. Once established, they handle periods of dry weather surprisingly well and usually experience fewer pest problems than many other fruit trees. Choose a sunny location with soil that doesn't stay waterlogged after heavy rain. Young trees appreciate regular watering during their first few seasons, but mature trees become much more independent. The secret isn't rushing the harvest. It's letting nature decide when the fruit is ready. Sometimes patience is the sweetest ingredient of all. Number 6. Pawpaw, North America's tropical surprise. The first time many people see a pawpaw tree, they assume it belongs somewhere much farther south. Its enormous green leaves create a lush, tropical appearance that seems completely out of place in many temperate gardens. Then the fruit begins to develop. Large green fruits hang beneath the branches, gradually softening as they ripen. Inside is creamy, golden flesh with a flavor that's often described as a blend of banana, mango, and vanilla custard. It's unlike almost anything sold in grocery stores. So why isn't everyone eating pawpaws? Because they're incredibly delicate. Once ripe, they don't stay fresh very long, making them difficult to ship over long distances. That makes them perfect for home gardeners and local growers, but less practical for supermarkets. Pawpaw trees naturally grow beneath taller trees when they're young, so a little afternoon shade during their early years can help them establish strong roots. As they mature, they'll appreciate more sunlight, which encourages heavier harvests. One useful tip is to plant 2 different pawpaw varieties if you have the space. Doing so usually improves pollination and leads to a much better crop. Some of nature's greatest flavors simply aren't meant to travel thousands of miles. Number 5. Jujube, the fruit that laughs at drought. If there were an award for determination, the jujube tree would be a serious contender. While many fruit trees struggle through scorching summers, jujubes seem almost unfazed. Their glossy green leaves stay healthy, while small oval fruits slowly change from bright green to reddish brown as they ripen. Fresh jujubes are crisp, juicy, and pleasantly sweet, with a flavor many people compare to apples. As they continue ripening, they become wrinkled and chewy, developing a taste that's similar to dates. That's why they're sometimes called Chinese dates, even though they're a completely different fruit. Jujubes have been cultivated for thousands of years across parts of Asia, yet they're still surprisingly uncommon in many home gardens. One reason is simply unfamiliarity. Many gardeners have never been introduced to them. That's unfortunate because they're among the easiest fruit trees to care for. They thrive in full sunshine, tolerate poor soils better than many fruit trees, and once established, they handle long dry periods with remarkable ease. Just avoid planting them where water remains around the roots after heavy rain. Healthy roots are the foundation of every healthy tree. So far, every fruit we've explored has something important in common. None became rare because they were difficult to grow. Most simply didn't fit the needs of large-scale farming. But for backyard gardeners, those same qualities make them incredibly valuable. And our final 4 may be the most surprising of all. One has been enjoyed since medieval times. Another is often planted for its beauty without people realizing how useful its fruit can be. And the number 1 fruit has quietly earned legendary status among gardeners who prefer nature to do most of the work. So far, we've discovered fruits that have quietly survived changing fashions, commercial farming, and even decades of being overlooked. They weren't forgotten because they lacked flavor. Quite the opposite. Most simply couldn't be shipped across the country, stored for weeks, or harvested all at once, like the fruits filling today's supermarket shelves. For home gardeners, though, that's actually good news. These plants reward patience instead of perfection. And our final 4 might just convince you that the best fruit trees aren't always the most famous ones. Number 4. Medlar, the forgotten fruit with a story to tell. Long before apples and pears became household favorites, medlars were highly valued across Europe. They appeared in monastery gardens, country orchards, and even medieval feasts. Today, however, many gardeners have never seen one. At first glance, the fruit looks unusual. Small, round, and russet brown, each one has an open, star-shaped end that makes it instantly recognizable. In spring, the tree is covered with large white blossoms that attract bees, while autumn brings fruits unlike anything you'll find in a grocery store. Here's the fascinating part. Unlike most fruits, medlars aren't at their best when freshly picked. They improve after softening naturally for a short time following harvest, a process gardeners have appreciated for centuries. As the fruit ripens fully, the flesh becomes creamy, sweet, and richly flavored, with hints of baked apple, dates, and gentle spices. The tree itself is wonderfully forgiving. It grows well in places with cold winters and warm summers, and adapts to many different soil types, provided water doesn't remain around the roots after heavy rain. It also experiences relatively few serious pest problems compared with many popular fruit trees. Sometimes, the oldest traditions still have something valuable to teach us. Number 3. Cornelian cherry, the tree that announces spring. Despite its name, the Cornelian cherry isn't actually a true cherry. It's a hardy dogwood that rewards gardeners twice every year. Long before most trees begin waking from winter, its branches burst into tiny golden yellow flowers that seem to glow against the still bare landscape. Months later, bright ruby red fruits begin to appear. Fresh from the tree, they're pleasantly tart. After fully ripening, or when cooked into jams, syrups, sauces, or preserves, they develop a wonderfully rich flavor. What makes this tree especially attractive is how dependable it is. It tolerates freezing winters, warm summers, clay soil, rocky ground, and even periods of dry weather once it's established. In other words, it spends far less time complaining than many fruit trees. One simple harvesting tip is to wait until the fruit develops its deepest red color and begins falling naturally. That's usually when it's sweetest. Some plants know exactly when they're ready. All we have to do is pay attention. By now, you may have noticed something surprising. These forgotten fruits don't need perfect gardens. Many have spent centuries adapting to changing weather, challenging soils, and seasons that rarely go exactly as planned. Perhaps that's why they still succeed today. And now we've reached our final 2. Both are remarkably productive, both support wildlife, and one has quietly earned the nickname of a true gardener's treasure. Number 2. Aronia, the quiet superfruit. Aronia, often called black chokeberry, is one of those plants that quietly excels without demanding attention. In spring, clusters of delicate white flowers brighten the shrub. During summer, glossy green leaves create a tidy backdrop. Then autumn transforms the entire plant into brilliant shades of crimson and orange, while clusters of deep purple-black berries hang from nearly every branch. Fresh berries have a bold, mouth-puckering flavor, which is why many gardeners prefer using them in juices, jams, syrups, smoothies, or baked treats, rather than eating large handfuls straight from the bush. What truly makes Aronia remarkable is its adaptability. It handles freezing winters, warm summers, heavy clay, sandy ground, and even occasional wet conditions surprisingly well. Once established, it rarely asks for much attention, making it an excellent choice for gardeners who appreciate dependable plants. Every few years, remove 1 or 2 of the oldest stems near the base. This encourages fresh new growth and helps keep the shrub productive for many seasons. Some of the toughest plants are also the most generous. Number 1. Elderberry, nature's gift to the lazy gardener. If one fruit perfectly represents today's theme, it's elderberry. For generations, elderberries have quietly flourished along woodland edges, country lanes, streams, and old farmsteads. They've survived not because people constantly cared for them, but because nature did. In late spring, enormous clusters of creamy white flowers appear, filling the air with gentle fragrance, while attracting bees, butterflies, and many other helpful pollinators. By late summer, those flowers become heavy clusters of dark purple-black berries that bend the branches beneath their weight. For centuries, people have turned cooked elderberries into syrups, jams, jellies, pies, sauces, and other traditional recipes. One important thing to remember is that elderberries should always be cooked before eating. The raw berries, along with the leaves, stems, and seeds, contain naturally occurring compounds that cooking helps make them safe to consume. The shrub itself is wonderfully adaptable. It grows well in many different climates, appreciates regular moisture while becoming established, and rewards gardeners with larger harvests when 2 different varieties are planted nearby. Once mature, elderberries often become one of the easiest fruiting plants in the entire garden. It's no surprise they've remained a favorite for generations. Sometimes nature quietly creates perfection all on its own. It's interesting how easily valuable plants can disappear from everyday life. Not because they stopped growing, not because they stopped tasting good, but because the world around them changed. Commercial farming needed fruit that looked identical, ripened together, stayed fresh during long journeys. Many of these remarkable fruits simply weren't designed for that. They were designed for home gardens, for families, for wildlife. For people who appreciate flavor, resilience, and the quiet satisfaction of harvesting fruit just a few steps from their own back door. Perhaps these fruits were never truly lost. Perhaps we simply stopped noticing them. Picture yourself walking through your garden on a peaceful summer morning. Sweet mulberries are ready to pick straight from the tree. Serviceberries ripen just before the birds discover them. A pawpaw hangs beneath broad, tropical-looking leaves. Nearby, a jujube tree quietly ripens fruit through another hot summer. Autumn arrives with glowing persimmons, unusual medlars, and brilliant red Cornelian cherries. Clusters of Aronia berries catch the morning light, while elderberries sway gently in the breeze, alive with buzzing bees. Most of these plants have asked for very little. No constant spraying, no endless watering, no daily attention. Just thoughtful planting, a little patience, and time. That's the real lazy gardener's jackpot. Not a garden without effort, but a garden filled with plants that have spent centuries learning how to thrive. Which of these forgotten fruits surprised you the most? Have you ever grown one of them? Or is there an old-fashioned fruit that deserves more attention in today's gardens? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might inspire another gardener to discover a fruit they've never even heard of. And if you enjoy learning about forgotten plants, productive gardens, and practical ways to grow more with less work, be sure to subscribe to Roots and Remedies. Every week, we explore timeless gardening wisdom, edible treasures, medicinal plants, and simple techniques that help your garden become healthier, more beautiful, and more rewarding. Until next time, keep planting, keep exploring, and remember the greatest treasures in the garden are often the ones the world almost forgot.